For 20 years, institutional capital treated the cloud as an ethereal, indestructible entity. Investors assumed that global data was secured by multi-billion-dollar cybersecurity budgets, entirely isolated from the physical realities of the ground. This bar chart compares the global allocation of defense capital. Industry spends roughly $200 billion a year on software-based cybersecurity. The budget for kinetic defense, protecting the actual buildings from aerial attack, is $0. That architectural blind spot was exposed on March 1, 2026. An Iranian-made Shahed 136 loitering munition bypassed every digital firewall on Earth by simply flying into a building. The target was an Amazon Web Services, or AWS, data center located in the United Arab Emirates. AWS is the world's most widely used cloud computing provider. Advanced zero-trust architectures and encryption protocols offer no resistance to 50 pounds of explosives detonating inside an industrial cooling manifold. The centralized hyperscale cloud model is structurally compromised. When the physical server racks burn to the ground, the billions spent on digital software defenses become irrelevant. The immediate fallout was total socio-economic paralysis. 11 million people in the UAE instantly lost access to ride-hailing applications, food delivery networks, and basic digital banking services. The UAE's paralysis was caused by the physical destruction of server racks, cables, and hardware, which burned to the ground before being saturated by water from suppression systems. Amazon quickly advised its enterprise clients to evacuate their data from the Middle East region entirely, signaling a total collapse of confidence in Gulf hosting infrastructure. Institutional capital has dangerously mispriced this risk. For years, massive real estate targets packed with sensitive data have been treated as if they existed in a vacuum, safe from physical attack. The macroeconomic calculus is shifting. Smart money is preparing to rotate capital out of legacy hyperscale infrastructure that relies on concentrated physical campuses. The cloud is a physical, highly concentrated, undefended real estate asset in an age of modern asymmetric warfare. This diagram shows the AWS N+1 redundancy model in the Middle East. N+1 means a system has at least one independent backup component to ensure continuous operation. These three distinct availability zones were built to survive localized electrical failures, not a coordinated military assault. The strike chronology exposes the design flaw. At 4 a.m., the first loitering munition destroyed availability zone AZ2. Initially, the storage logic performed as designed, maintaining network integrity by rerouting the load to the remaining two zones. At 6:30 a.m., a second drone hit the AZ3 facility, overwhelming the architecture's capacity to maintain data consistency. This triggers a quorum failure. The distributed system loses too many nodes, cannot agree on the true state of data, and halts operations to prevent corruption. The outage was absolute. 110 distinct enterprise services, from foundational storage to serverless computing, went offline simultaneously. Redundancy models relying on geographic clustering within a 50-mile radius fail when facing coordinated drone warfare. If an adversary can hit two buildings in the same city, the entire regional economy collapses. The physical damage was contained to the Gulf, but the economic contagion immediately spread to the African continent. This map illustrates the underlying vulnerability. 80% of all Nigerian .ng domains, including their critical fintech and logistics applications, are hosted on foreign servers. This extreme offshore dependency creates a state of digital colonialism. Digital colonialism is the condition where a nation's core domestic economic functions are entirely controlled by and reliant upon infrastructure physically located in another country. Because of this tether, the drone strikes in the UAE functioned as an immediate kill switch for the Nigerian economy. Ride-hailing and payment networks froze in Lagos, even though no kinetic conflict occurred on African soil. Sovereign leadership is waking up. Officials like Nigerian President Bola Tinubu recognize that leaving national data on foreign servers is a severe national security threat. When a foreign kinetic event can neutralize an entire nation's digital economy from thousands of miles away, offshore hosting is exposed as a catastrophic single point of failure. We have to ask how the tech monopolies that built the modern internet, companies with near infinite capital, failed to protect their own physical assets? The answer lies in horizontal scaling. Horizontal scaling is the engineering practice of adding more machines to a system rather than upgrading existing ones, leading companies to cluster over 100,000 servers inside single 2.5 million square foot warehouses. This extreme centralization drives significant power and cooling efficiencies, but it inherently creates an unavoidable high-value target for adversaries. The physical interconnections required for these campuses, subsea cables, high-fiber networks, and massive power transformers, are clustered at highly visible geographic choke points. Commercial data centers rely on chain-link fences and biometric scanners at the door. Meanwhile, their massive industrial cooling manifolds sit completely exposed on the roof. The hyperscale efficiency model is mathematically incompatible with modern warfare. A $20,000 loitering munition effortlessly bypasses a $200 billion software defense by simply striking the building from above. Geographic convenience and hyper-centralized offshore hosting are now dead strategies. Markets now require an immediate capital rotation strategy to physically price out single point of failure risk from their portfolios. Look at this terminal data tracking institutional inflows. Capital allocators are moving toward the first safe harbor, African domestic data centers and local infrastructure assets. Physical data localization has evolved into a premium asset class for sovereign wealth managers, as the need for physical security now overrides the convenience of offshore hosting. Treat this infrastructure exactly like national defense. A sovereign country requires a domestic steel industry to build its physical defenses, and it absolutely requires domestic data processing to ensure its economic survival. The central rule for regional stability is strict. If the data operates a sovereign economy, it must physically reside on sovereign soil. The second half of the portfolio rotation moves toward decentralized physical infrastructure networks, or DePIN. DePIN uses token incentives to crowdsource and distribute real-world hardware across thousands of individual operators, rather than relying on a single corporate entity. This split-screen stress test contrasts the two architectures. On the left, a traditional centralized hyperscale campus takes a single kinetic hit and dies. On the right, protocol-level distribution relies on a vast, resilient web of micronodes. DePIN crowdsources computing power and storage across thousands of independent, non-uniform physical nodes globally. There is no central warehouse to target. When kinetic sabotage destroys individual nodes in a decentralized network, the protocol seamlessly reroutes the workload to surviving machines, maintaining perfect uptime. Crowdsourcing compute power mathematically eliminates the geographic concentration risk exposed by asymmetric drone warfare. You cannot destroy what is everywhere. Institutional capital must exit the vulnerable hyperscale model. Securing digital sovereignty through distributed networks and localized infrastructure is the only viable strategy before the broader market fully prices in the realities of kinetic cloud warfare.